What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge. Alright, this story's called, "Won't move your patrol car to let the ambulance out? I'll let your sergeant deal with you." This happened around 4th of July. There was a small fender bender and emergency services get called out. My towing company sends me out by accident, not realizing the flatbed at the scene could tow both vehicles. There was one ambulance and 5 police cruisers, 3 cruisers blocking the road, 1 directing traffic, and then the butthole who showed up after the scene was secured. Butthole felt the need to park his cruiser crossway diagonally in front of the ambulance. Not necessarily blocking the path, but if anyone has driven an ambulance, they are a pain to reverse around obstacles. The EMTs asked the a-hole to move his cruiser, and he literally said, "When I'm ready," and resumed chatting with the cop directing traffic. Another cruiser shows up, and it's a sergeant who knew me and the company I work for. He goes off to deal with the scene, and the EMTs rush to talk to him about moving the cruiser. I see him stomping in my direction, and then walks to the cruiser, and the door was locked. He called for the cop that pulled in front, and he either didn't respond, ignore, or wasn't aware his superior was there. He looked pissed. He reached for the radio, but then he looked at me and asked what my drop fee was. 5 minutes go by, and he waves to me to get the cruiser, so I line up and sting it and dragged it out of the way, and the ambulance drivers waved and left the area. He told me to keep the cruiser hooked because he wanted to teach the butthole a lesson. He walked over to the cop directing traffic and butthole and alerted him that he was getting towed. He rushed back and demanded I put the car down and that it's not a funny joke, but I reminded him that all tows are fair in the county if the car is illegally parked. He looked at the sergeant, and the sergeant reminded him that the ordinance extends to emergency vehicles. Had to look this up, it's not. He tried to negotiate it to 40, but my drop fee is 100. He hesitates, but he pulls 520s from his wallet, and I put his cruiser down. He got in the cruiser, and he didn't look too happy as he pulled away. The sergeant busts out laughing and said that kid needed that. He told me he's only been on the force less than a few weeks, and that he was acting like he ran the place as if he was the sergeant. We shook hands, talked about work and Hot Wheels, and I went off $100 richer. Hey, nice, you got a dummy cop to pay $100 to get his car back. What a dummy. Alright, this story's called, "She Kept Stealing My Washing Powder, so I Gave Her Dye." I don't mind when my roommates borrow stuff. We've all been there. All I ask is that they replace what they take. You drink my milk? Just buy me new milk. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, my roommate doesn't seem to get this. She keeps taking my stuff, and when I ask her to please replace everything she takes, she'll buy one new thing and forget to do it the next time despite having more money than me. I finally snapped when I wanted to wash my clothes, but only found an empty box that used to contain my washing powder. I don't buy fancy or expensive stuff, and I don't care about brands. After using the last of my powder a week earlier, she could literally have bought the cheapest no-brand powder in the world and I would have been fine. I just snapped. I told her over and over to not use my washing powder if she wasn't going to replace it. I just had enough. I bought a new box of washing powder, some Dylon machine dye, mixed it with a bit of the washing powder, and dumped it into the old box. When the dye is dry, it looks like washing powder, especially if you're not expecting it. I took my new box of washing powder to my room and waited. A week later, I came home from work and saw her laundry hanging outside, all with a mysterious pink color. She stomped up to me and demanded to know what I had done. I told her I was going to dye my own clothes and someone had told me the shade would be lighter if I mixed it with powder. Lie. Then asked her why she had used it when it had clearly been in a box with my name on it when I had told her not to use it because she never replaced it. I don't think she believed me, but she finally got the message. She almost never takes my stuff, and when she does, she's quick to replace it. Okay, while I respect your rule and everything, So if someone uses like your milk for a bowl of cereal, do you expect like a whole ass carton of milk to replace it? I mean, if so, it's cool and all because it's your stuff, and if someone uses it, it should be on your terms, but why? Anyway, really cool story, really satisfying revenge. I love stuff like this where someone's stealing your stuff and so you sabotage that thing, and yeah, then they screw their stuff up, or they screw themselves up with like explosive diarrhea or death or something. I don't know how crazy you guys are. This story's called Don't Be a D-Bag. I worked in a large government social service complex in a decent-sized city. The complex was made up of a few dozen office buildings and the residential facilities across many acres. Our team was recently combined from a few different counties. We were supposed to be the cream of the crop and have the best staff to run the agency. Parking was always an issue. People were parking spot vultures, especially around 8 a.m. when most of the service organizations opened. Some days you would have to hike a mile or more from some faraway lot across the campus. One of my colleagues thought he was better than everyone else. Very egotistical and arrogant. His flashy sports car was always parked in a lone employee handicap spot right below our office. I always wondered who owned the very nice ride until I saw him exit his car just after lunch. I told him it wasn't cool to park there. He said if anyone was that handicapped, they shouldn't be working for the government. Side note, our company was very on top of cultural competency. We had a very diverse work group, including many staff who had immigrated to the States and had worked for citizenship, including our COO. We also had a brilliant team member who used hand crutches. His experience was like a real-life Sean Connery James Bond. He had a remarkable military career in some of the scariest war zones on Earth, and even had the accent. He was more than competent. The sports car owner made it very clear that he was also from another country, and had a large map of his home country hanging in his office. He frequently would become upset when people asked if he was from a more widely known country, and would harumph about not making assumptions about people's ethnicity. I took a picture of his car and emailed it to my boss along with our conversation exchange. Our boss addressed it with everyone. Don't be a Richard. Don't park in the handicap spot unless you have tags too. The next morning, D-Bag's sports car was there again. I emailed my boss, who told me to call security and have it towed. Someone from the office saw it being towed and alerted D-Bag. He was outside negotiating with the towing company to not tow his car when my boss stepped out and told them to tow it. He was warned. Everyone was warned in writing. It didn't change his arrogance or ego though. Go boss! What a boss! Alright, this story's called Did You Enjoy the Chocolates? My wife's douchebag brother has been living with us for almost a year. It was supposed to be for just 3 or so months while he got on his feet. We agreed up front that he would not pay a penny at first. After he got a job, we expected him to contribute what he could based on his circumstances while saving for his own place. My wife's parents, who I adore, begged us to take him in, as the much smaller town he came from didn't offer many opportunities. He looked for a job, somewhat half-hearted for the first few weeks, eventually ended up working weekends at a convenience store. Not exactly the career move we had all hoped for. Having started a new job, he stopped looking for anything else. The week, he stays up very late and then sleeps all day. Douchebag brother has not given us a nickel since he arrived and frequently borrows $20 from my wife. This boy also has what I would call a very healthy appetite. This kid is eating us out of house and home. It is not uncommon for him to make himself breakfast at 2 in the morning. Breakfast for him is half a dozen eggs, an entire package of bacon, and half a loaf of bread. We get up in the morning often to find the kitchen destroyed with all of the cooking utensils and his dirty plate left out. The most frustrating part is any kind kind of treat that is brought into the house is immediately consumed by this guy. On grocery day, if you buy a bag of chips, that night he will eat the whole thing. He once ate a box of 50 Halloween-sized chocolate bars in 2 days. We started keeping some grocery foodstuffs in our bedroom just so they last more than 24 hours. My wife enjoys, in moderation, an occasional treat of peanut butter cups. It is one of her guilty pleasures. I actually made it part of our wedding vows where I committed to ensuring there will always be peanut butter cups in the house. This is proving to be extremely difficult with our current house guest. I try to keep a cookie jar in the kitchen full of them, but will frequently find it completely empty. After being caught without peanut butter cups by my wife several times due to douchebag brother eating the entire stash the day I brought it home, I plotted some petty revenge. I had found a brand of peanut butter cups that are made with an artificial sweetener, with a name that I can't pronounce, that is not recognized by your stomach. It makes the item sweet when it's in your mouth, but then it passes through your body unprocessed. The sweetener, however, accumulates in your bowels and functions like a weapons-grade laxative. The cookie jar was empty for several days when I filled it right to the top with the special weaponized peanut butter cups. I made sure douchebag brother was aware I filled it up. When I got up the following morning, the jar was completely empty. He had eaten all 24 of them. When he was leaving the house to catch the bus to work, I noted with some satisfaction he was looking a little green around the gills. A couple hours later, we received a frantic call from him asking us to pick him up immediately. He had crapped his pants at work. We're not talking a little skid mark or touching cloth. We are talking full-on poo-nami. Liquefied crap was running out of his pant legs. I was tempted to tell him to take the bus, but relented. Although I did use my wife's car, and I laid down some Polly in the back seat. I guess my plan kinda backfired. I will see myself out. Because I ended up in the car with him for 15 minutes and he stunk to high heaven. Although possibly with chocolatey undertones. But that might have been my imagination. He said it had come on without warning. He hadn't been feeling very well all day, had a stomach cramp and was walking towards the bathroom when he literally exploded. I took the opportunity to tell him his lifestyle choices probably contributed to his current predicament. Nothing changed. He is still here. He is still not contributing. Although I must note his eating habits have improved somewhat, and he also doesn't binge eat our treats anymore. Edit! Thank you for the awards. I am not sure I deserve them, having made a grown man poop his pants in public, but I guess others have done less for more. Thanks again. Well, that seemed like a rather unfortunate situation. You thought I was gonna say poopy, but I didn't. And that is comedy. Alright, this story is called My Paycheck is Where? Let me start by saying this was long before cell phones became de rigueur. Think home phones and payphones. My parents insisted I be a responsible teen, meaning I should pay my own car insurance and earn my spending cash. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Honestly, thanks. I learned a good deal about responsibility from this simple exercise. So I got a job flipping burgers for a regional chain. The work was hellish with dirty long hours. This was my senior year and I stuck with it as I moved on to college. They even deemed me worthy of a shift manager title, but I vehemently refused to become salaried because I feared they'd make me work 60 hours a week. They'd call my house on days off asking me to come in. They'd call before I was scheduled to work asking me to come in early. I was already working almost 50 hours a week and my class attendance, homework, and social life were suffering. I had no luck finding any unskilled work that wasn't worse. Think doing landscaping in 100+ temperatures all day. My parents issued an ultimatum, and I cracked. I decided I'd join the military to escape. The people I worked with lobbied me not to do it. They told me the military was a brutal environment and it would crush my spirit. Like this place wasn't? I did the deal, signed the paperwork, and set a date to go off to basic training a few months down the road. The burger people are still calling me for extra and extended shifts, so I finally said, "Screw it! I've worked my last shift." The franchisee and district manager had a history of toying with people who quit. They'd play this shell game with their last paycheck to send employees on a wild goose chase. The former employee would show up on payday to get their last check to be told it was at the franchisee's HQ. Then they'd say it was at their main restaurant closest to HQ. That restaurant would then say that the check was sent there mistakenly and forwarded on to their original restaurant where they worked. This sometimes went on for a couple of days. I came to realize that their check was sitting in the safe right where it was supposed to be all along. Friday afternoon comes and I drive over to get my last paycheck. Guess what the manager tells me? Yup, my check is not there. I need to go to the franchisee's corporate HQ. Anticipating their chicanery, I'd written the number of the state labor board on a piece of paper and stuffed it in my pocket before heading to get my check. I pull the piece of paper out, set it on the counter, explain what it is, and notify them that I'm stepping outside to call the labor board to request a complaint packet be sent to my house, but I expect my check when I come back in. I step outside, call my dad, and laugh because these transparent clowns did exactly what they always do. I walk back to the counter and the general manager appears from around the corner holding my check. She slides the check across the counter while looking away like it was a dead lizard she'd been forced to handle. I tried to make eye contact while tamping down a grin. No dice. She won't look at me. Edit! The revenge came when I could see her dying inside while she was forced to hand over my paycheck to avoid a real labor board complaint. That is actually really good revenge. I love it when people are forced to confront their bullcrap.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.